Here's the tower itself, flag on the top, lovely building. Don't know who the architect was or the designer, but beautiful building overlooking the sea. And there we have Morecambe Bay leading onto the Irish Sea. Morning everybody, it's Steve here. I'm at Fleetwood Observation Tower and I'm with Stuart and Les. Stuart has offered to give us some detailed information about the role of the volunteers here in the tower itself. Thank you for that, Stuart.
Morning everybody. Yes, thank you Steve for allowing us to show a little bit of what we do here at Fleetwood NCI. The Fleetwood NCI is part of the National Coastwatch Institution, which is a national charity and voluntary organisation that was started in 1994 down at Bass Point in Cornwall. It was basically set up as a voluntary organisation there for observance of the coast following the withdrawal of His Majesty's Coast Guard Service in that area. We now have approximately 58 to 60 Coastwatch towers that are manned around the country of England and Wales 365 days of the year primarily. Here at Fleetwood we are one of those towers that is open for those 365 days. We're manned totally by volunteers. We receive no formal subscription, we rely on voluntary subscription. I've been working here as a member of the Coastwatch since October last year. I came on as a volunteer, wanting to do something for the community, trying to put something back into the community and offer support to the community that I live and work in. And I do this as part of a team of other similarly minded volunteers to do what we can to support those on the sea, on the coast and on the beaches around the area of Fleetwood. We're responsible for an area of the land that we can see from this tower. This tower was opened in 2013, replacing an earlier tower, and we're responsible for the area from Rossall Point down to the Wyre Estuary, and then across we're responsible for the area of the water, the Irish Sea, across Morecambe Bay, from the area around the Barrow Wind Farm, across to Barrow, round to the Heysham Port, then down to Glastondock Commercial Port, and then through to Fleetwood. And we monitor all vessels coming in and out of those areas, and also any vessels that are within sight or within radar or within the AIS site on that system. We record everything that we see, everything that we hear in a log. That log is maintained and can be used in a court of maritime law should there be a requirement. We are answerable to His Majesty's Coast Guard Service, and we also work with their agreement and with their support the search and rescue services, the police, the fire brigade, the ambulance service, the lifeboat, the beach patrol, the air sea rescue services, the air ambulance, the mountain rescue. I'd like to show you a little bit of what we do here now. We maintain a watch, as has been said, and we use a system here to observe what is actually taking place. We look at the weather and we provide a weather report that is done. It's an actual weather report rather than a weather forecast, and we provide that every 2 hours to maritime shipping so they can make a decision as to whether or not it is safe to be actually out on the seas, whether they should leave port or whether they should return to port. We use a system that is on our computer system here to obtain that information, and that's connected to a weather station that is on the roof of the tower. We also have a system here called the AIS system, and that shows all the vessels that are within our area that have their AIS system on and available. We can see currently, looking at this chart, that there is a vessel in Heysham Port, which is the Sea Truck Performance, that is due to leave Heysham in the next hour or so, making its journey across the Irish Sea. We can also see at the lower end the Ben McCree, which is a passenger and cargo vessel that is making its way over from Douglas and is heading up towards Heysham. Out to the northwest we can see that there is the Shoalway, that is a dredger, and that is working on the area around the Barrow Wind Farm, and then there's also a crew vessel out there called the Detector. Those vessels also show up on the radar system which we have here. We maintain radio contact with vessels at sea using our own dedicated channel, which is channel 65. We also are in contact with the Coast Guard through channel 16 and also the search and rescue channel of the Coast Guard, channel 00. Moving further across our station here, we have the map, the maritime map of this area, and you can see here at the centre is where the Fleetwood Coast Watch station is. We take all our coordinates and all our bearings from that, and we can plot the position of a vessel or of an individual who may be out at sea, and we can provide that information to the emergency Coast Guard services by checking on the latitudes and the longitudes, and also looking at the tidal drifts so that we can see where a person or a vessel will be in an hour's time, 2 hours time, etc. This helps the emergency rescue services quickly pinpoint the point where they need to commence their search. As I say, we work on a voluntary basis. We are a voluntary organisation. If anybody wants to donate, we do have our own website, NCI Fleetwood, and donations can be made online through that, or you can contact the tower and we can make arrangements for any donations that are received. That basically is what we do here. My role is working with my colleague on the watch. I am recording the information in as my colleague spots the actual items that are, or the situations that are taking place. And as I look out of the window now, I can see that one of those vessels is now coming into sight, and shortly we will be taking a bearing of that to record that vessel coming safely across from the Isle of Man through to Heysham. So that's our role. Thank you for your time, and thank you for watching.
Hey, cheers, Stuart. Thank you for your time, because all that technical information, obviously the general public, including myself, won't have any idea what goes on the top of this tower, but obviously it's important work. And I'll have a chat with Les later on, because the volunteers, they do know what they're talking about, and I'll ask Les about the training and things like that you all have to go through. But for now, cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, here I've got Les. He's one of the other volunteers that's manning the station this morning. And I am always curious about why volunteers do get involved with such intensive work that they do. I'm sure there's stuff involved that you can explain to us. So, first of all, Les, why is it you did volunteer?
Well, we moved up to Fleetwood early on in the year, and I was a volunteer watchkeeper down in Charlestown in Cornwall. So I just wanted to carry on that, and the reason I did it in Cornwall is again to put something back, and also it's interesting. You meet people, we get visitors in, you explain everything you know, they ask you questions. I just like doing it.
Yeah, I know already through the introduction that Stuart's given that there is a lot of detail involved. Do you have official training or college? Is there anything like that you have to do for this?
I was trained in Cornwall, and it took, I think, if I remember rightly, 4 months. Not constant, but doing shared watches with other watchkeepers and senior watchkeepers. And, well, like I say, 4 months, we covered everything that Stuart's mentioned. And that's it. You're then examined by a senior watchkeeper, and if you pass, you pass, and if you don't, you start again.
If anybody was inspired to follow your role locally, what would the procedure be? Do you know?
Well, they could go on the website and apply, on the website, or they could call in the station. There's a form. It's called an expression of interest. They fill that in, and that goes to the membership secretary, and he then carries on dealing with that person.
Yeah, I know that this station is manned every day, 365 days a year. What sort of hours are involved, so people would know? Is it kind of virtually a full-time job, or?
No, not at all. In the summer, we open 10 in the morning till 6 at night. In the winter, it's 10 till 4. Now, in the summer, you do a 4-hour shift, or watch as we call them. And in the winter, because of the time change and the light, we do a 3-hour watch. And you just change over, well, in the winter at 1 o'clock. 2 more people come on and they carry on.
So how many years in total have you been doing this?
I trained in Cornwall and I've actually been here 4 years now. Been a watchkeeper for 4 years. I've been here since once we got the house move sorted. I think I started in March.
Oh, smashing that. So whilst it's one of those services that you hope never have to be used, I'm sure that you do get used. What sort of incidents is it that you get thrown up with?
To be quite honest here, it's mainly people getting into trouble on the beaches.
In what way is that?
Well, they walk out and they don't realise the tides here are very, not strange, but erratic probably. You can go and walk out onto King's Scar and turn around to walk back and the sea's coming round the back of you.
Okay.
And once that happens, there's no way back. Because you can't really wade through water, because once it's covered, or nearly covered, it's well over waist deep. And that's the main thing we keep an eye on. Well, we keep an eye on everything, but especially when people are out there, we keep a special watch on, shall we say.
So especially say in the summer when you've got the holidaymakers and people who are unaware of the dangers of the sea.
People are not familiar with the sea and with the area, yeah. But you get a lot of people taking dogs on the beach, which is great for the dogs. But while you're playing with your dog and the tide's coming round, it can easily happen.
Yeah. Have you had any incidents in the current year?
We had one in August where a lady got trapped. Obviously, I can't divulge any details.
Yeah. So what's your role then? How do you coordinate the emergency services for such an incident where somebody's trapped on the sand?
The first thing we would do is inform the Coast Guard. They then take over the running of it. We can't authorise the lifeboat. The Coast Guard has to do that. But we then keep an eye on what's going on, and if the casualty moves or anything happens, we then inform the Coast Guard again. Now, the Coast Guard can then authorise us to speak on the radio to the lifeboat. We cannot do that without authorisation.
Okay. So finally, I'd just like to ask, how many volunteers do operate Fleetwood Observation Tower? To keep it manned every day of the year, it's a huge operation. How many staff do they have?
I think at the minute we've got about 45.
Wow.
And there's a couple in training. And we also have some veterans, which are retired watchkeepers. They don't do watches, but they still involve themselves with the...
So if they were stuck for staff, would they pop in and help out for a couple of hours? Is that how it works?
I would think so, if they're really stuck, but very rare are they stuck for volunteers. If there is any gaps in the rota, I forgot what her title is, but Mandy will send an email out asking for volunteers for a particular
somebody who's
watch.
willing to do it.
Yeah.
I assume you have to do that for like the shifts on Christmas Day as well, do you?
Well, to be honest, no.
No.
I am actually on Christmas Day.
Good lad, well done.
With another chap. And I just like doing Christmas Day. I've got to be honest, I'm not a lover of Christmas, so that's why I do it.
Right, okay.
In the hope that other people don't have to do it if they've got family coming or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of everybody, I'd just like to thank you both for having me in the station today. It's been really interesting. It's been an eye-opener. I've learned a lot about how many hours are put in, the technical abilities that you have to have. And I know you don't want to be used by anybody out there, but there will be times where it does happen. I just want to say thank you to everybody. And when you're here on Christmas Day, lad, just bring a piece of cake for yourself. All right, well, thank you very much.
No problem.
It's Steve here now. I'm on the observation deck for the bird watchers and the public and people like that. And this is the sort of view that they actually get. So we're looking out over Morecambe Bay, which obviously leads into the Irish Sea. And this is the area that these folk actually cover. They've obviously got all the equipment and what have you. And again, it's all expensive stuff. Run by a charity, they have to fund it all for themselves. Must be an amazing job. I believe they have to raise something like £5,000 to £6,000 a year to keep everything in order and what they need, you know. There is a boat over there in the distance. It's the Ben McCree. I've been told reliably it does at least 2 visits from Heysham to the Isle of Man, Douglas, and it's on its way back to Heysham at the moment. And as they've said to me, all these sort of boats and trips and what have, they're all reported, they're all logged, and there's nobody passes by without them knowing about it. What a huge area it's covered. There's the Lake District right up there, and this view from the top of the tower is absolutely superb. I've had a great morning today, and these are volunteers that they're at the sharp end really, and doing this every day of the year. It's just phenomenal dedication and sacrifice to make sure that people are safe. And as Les told me earlier on, there are incidents that do happen. You don't want them to happen, but just misjudging the power of the sea and the tidal movements and things like that, it can be dangerous. And now and again people actually get stuck in sand, which you assume will be a nightmare for everybody concerned. But what a great job. Thoroughly enjoyed myself today, and I'm off home now for a cup of tea. See you again.